Here we are, episode 32 of the Two Russells podcast with me, Russell Jervis, and...
me, Russell Quirk. That was my cue, wasn't it?
Yes. And fascinating, wasn't it? I kept thinking about the marketing conversation we had with Simon Ledbetter around the return on income of that marketing piece and how much someone should be spending.
And I wonder how many people, my challenge, my kind of question to camera was how many of you watching what we were talking about actually know how much money you're spending as a percentage of your revenue on marketing. Hopefully those that didn't know now have looked. Be interested to let us know, were you pleasantly or unpleasantly surprised? I think we kind of settled on about a 10% number, which obviously, look, one size doesn't necessarily fit all. But let us know if that's what you're spending or if what you're spending is way less or way more. I bet you're spending way less than 10% of your revenue on marketing.
While you're looking at your marketing line, have a look at your attrition line, because I bet there's nobody that's got an attrition line on their P&L to see how much that talent leaving you is costing, because I'm fascinated by that particularly as well.
And so in that vein, should we talk about how an agent might get a few more listings?
Well, definitely an investment into getting more instructions is strong on this band's agenda. So welcome Colby of GetAgent, the co-founder and CEO. So thank you for coming on the Two Russells.
Thanks for having me.
So you two know each other a bit, don't you?
Yeah, we do. We used to kind of, I think it's fair to say, cross swords, didn't we, when in my online agency days?
Yeah, maybe.
And I remember you baiting me when you were on stage a couple of times at future prop tech conferences. Yeah. So we had a begrudging kind of distant respect for each other, I think, because I guess that we should just lay this on the table now. You had a bit of a disregard for online estate agencies. In fact, you were one of the biggest critics right at the beginning of the online estate agency journey, I think it's fair to say.
Ooh, expand.
Yeah. Well, first of all, that conference was 9 years ago, so it's good to know you hold a grudge.
And
don't forget...
First thing you told me.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the challenge with online estate agents, well, first of all, at that time, kind of GetAgent, we were trying to raise money from investors. And what I constantly heard from these venture capital investors is there is no room for a company like GetAgent because estate agents are going to be dead in 5 years because everyone is going to use
online.
Purple Bricks, Yopa. I don't think anyone mentioned Russell's
they
business.
Did.
But because that's why you had the orange strap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they did mention eMove, but the investors were saying that online agents are just going to take over. And from my perspective, I just couldn't see it because I think part of the reason why kind of GetAgent was required is that a lot of the time people think that estate agency is easy. It's a little bit like, I know you do recruitment now. Yeah. It's a little bit like you stick a listing up or you stick a job ad up and you field the inquiries, you pass them over and kind of your job's done. But obviously having been doing GetAgent for a couple of years at that point, I realised that was anything but the case and that I remember actually I went to a talk by Robert Ellis from Easy Property, which is almost at the extreme end of it, which is kind of, you think of Easy as a brand, it really is kind of budget.
Yeah.
And I just kind of thought, well, if I'm going to sell my largest financial asset, if I think about the times when I am actually going to invest in somebody doing a good job for me, and I'm going to be prepared to do a bit more, selling my home is that one of those times. It's my largest financial asset. I want the best outcome. And we just couldn't really see how somebody who is not a local market expert often doesn't know to tell you kind of, you've got a dog, there's a dog-friendly pub just round the corner that does great roasts. I think that's kind of the skills that a local agent, a proper local agent has, which were just not there with the online agents. What they did do great was marketing. They could leverage a unified national brand like Purple Bricks did with their millions of pounds of TV spend. But I just didn't really see it.
But you had to make a bet, right? So this was we should cast our minds back and the audience's minds back to, I guess, the hype is what you're talking about from an investor's perspective, and actually a fear within the estate agency industry that the likes of Purple Bricks, Yopa, Hatched, eMove, dare I say, were going to kind of take over. There were various philosophies thrown around in terms of market share. I famously said 25-30% market share. So I actually think that you had to make a calculation. So there was surely an instinct, as I guess you're alluding to, that, look, I don't get the online thing, so therefore I'm not going to back it. But you had to take a commercial risk. I mean, maybe even a discussion at board level with investors where you had to say, look, I've got to fall down on one side here. There's no money in online estate agency for us, although they're spending money. But I guess in terms of your concept, which I'd gather is part of a fee split kind of approach, you had to back the right horse. You were one of the only people 9 years ago saying, this online thing ain't going to work.
We're back in high street.
Yeah, I guess there's two things. So the first thing is that these companies were willing to pay us quite a lot of money for leads at the time. Like famously, their cost of acquisition, Purple Bricks, was something like, I don't know, over $2,000, and they were charging
995, 695 or whatever.
So we could have easily kind of just sold leads to these people and made income, which at the time would have been important for GetAgent. So of course, we did have to make a decision thinking more long term. And there were two parts of that. One was we've always been a data-driven organization, and the data was not suggesting that a vendor would be making the correct decision going with these online agents. Obviously, within them, they had some good people, but generally speaking, vendors would be better off going with a strong.
And so, what do you mean by that? You mean in terms of conversion from listing to sale, for instance?
Well, partly that, right? Because the big thing about price, and I think that's what when I was on stage at the Future Prop Tech, I was talking about that actually Purple Bricks are often more expensive by the time you consider the conversion rate.
Asking price.
Exactly. But just in terms of what you achieve, the time of sale, these kind of things, vendors would be better off using a really good local agent. So just in the long term, kind of GetAgent, we've always been kind of data-driven, trying to help the vendor get the best outcome for their property. So just it failed that test as well. And there's been lots of times over the years where there's things that will be commercially better for GetAgent or seemingly better for commercially for GetAgent in the short term. But we need to stay true to that kind of objectivity, data-driven focus that we've always had to help people find the best agent, not just give someone to the agent that pays us money.
So hold that thought there. Let's go back to the beginning, because you didn't grow GetAgent yourself out of working in a estate agency. You weren't in the sector. So talk us through your journey.
Yeah. So my journey is kind of I went to a good school, a grammar school. A lot of my, all of my people I went to school with went on to university. I decided to go travelling to Australia for a year. I was going to go back and go and study law when I got back. I enjoyed my time off in Australia. I met a Swedish girl. And do you know what I learned in that time is actually I didn't really like the idea of going to somewhere where like going and doing more schooling, right? I'd had a taste of in that break of earning money, and I realised I was much more interested in bits of paper that said 5, 10, 20, 50 than A, B, C, D, right? So for me, I was still going to go to university. The Swedish girl I met said that she wanted to go back to Sweden to study. Did I want to go with her? And I guess kind of it's maybe at the time that's an indicator of my attitude to risk. It's probably not a surprise that having decided, sod it, I'll go and do that I ended up starting a company with kind of the same attitude to risk. So I moved to Stockholm, which was a really random move.
And you're like 19 or 20 at the time?
Yeah, probably 19 or 20.
You need a few quid to live in Sweden, don't you?
We need a few quid to live in Stockholm for sure. And I actually I applied for jobs before I went, because I said it sounds like an adventure if I can get a job. And I found a company that was working in selling sports hospitality to CEOs and MDs of Fortune 500 companies. Right. And it's one of these sales jobs where they make you feel like, so first of all, it's OTE, 100K, whatever. They make you feel like during the recruitment process that you've been selected out of thousands of people.
And sounds like certain recruitment evenings we've explored on these.
And then you get there, you realise the basic's 500 quid a month, and kind of you look at the money list and nobody's earning much over 20 grand a year. Right. But that was a real eye-opening moment for me, because I really love sport. I had a bit at the time of like kind of the gift and the gab, and I did really well there. I really loved it. And within 8 months, I was running the office. So when I joined, the office had 22 people. That was the year, and now I feel old. Lehman Brothers went bankrupt.
Right. 2008.
Yeah. So you're trying to sell sports hospitality. You're trying to say to people, pay £20,000 to take your customers to see a sporting event. Yeah. When your customers are begging you for discounts,
or losing their jobs.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a tough sell.
And was it a bit of a boiler room kind of environment?
It was a boiler room environment in terms of it was fully above board, obviously, like boiler rooms off, but it definitely was kind of
but intense.
Very
alpha, very salesy.
I was calling
Wall
like
Street.
so I pitched the CEO of Kaspersky Antivirus. I managed to get his mobile number from their Kazakhstan office. I called him on his mobile number, pitched him 30 places at the Olympics final and opening ceremony, and kind of said to him, we've had a cancellation, we need to know in the hour.
Yeah.
Right, it was that kind of thing. And if they say no, say, well, okay, fine, we'll have to leave it. If they say we can't do it in the hour, you say, okay, we'll have to leave it. So I one call closed that guy on £400,000 of sports hospitality spend, which was obviously a massive buzz. In one call, faxed the contract to his to him and got the contract back within 2 hours.
They're still using your pitch now. I regularly get a call with the cancellation. Just had a cancellation.
They genuinely are using some of my pitch now. So
brilliant.
So that office, when I took it over, it had gone from 22 people to 3, and then we grew it to 29 people within 12 months. So that was like my first time managing people. I ran the Swedish office, so there was no one there. So again, it was a good learning opportunity for understanding how to deal with the HR stuff and all of those kind of things, which, as you guys know, and as kind of a lot of estate agents will know, is the unexpected challenge of starting your own business, right? So it was all those kind of things. So, I guess it kind of resets your view around your own capabilities and also what's possible for yourself. So that was great, but I kind of, I guess, burnt out a bit there, and I got to a point where I realised that this is great, but
not sustainable.
Not sustainable, and actually, I was doing really well, but the other people in the office,
getting the 100.
I was getting the 100. When all your mates are getting the 20, kind of, it's not that.
And how long were you there for?
2 and a bit years overall.
So then what happened?
Well, I think so. I split up with the Swedish girl, and then my
you were
mates,
working too long.
Something like that. And my mates were graduating, and kind of I wanted to come back and do that London thing with my mates after they'd come out of university, etc. So I moved back, and I think again, like, just that attitude to risk is that sometimes you're up, sometimes you take a few steps back, sometimes you look for other opportunities. So I decided to move back to London.
But with no plan in terms of career?
No, so I did sales consultancy, so I helped train sales teams and stuff for a bit. And then, like, I guess kind of for me, so I don't come from money, right? I'm not like claiming like abject poverty. I'm not doing a Gary Stevenson kind of thing.
No. Let's not get onto him.
Yeah, exactly.
Irritating.
But I don't come from money. So for me, I think that there's a window of opportunity where you don't have responsibilities, where you can afford to take a punt,
a risk. Yeah.
Right. And like, I've just had a baby, little boy, who's
Congratulations.
5 weeks old today.
Yeah, wow.
My attitude to risk now would be far different to what it was when I was in my early 20s.
Well, I want to expand on that a little bit in a minute, but go on.
Yeah. So I think at that time I thought, well, look, there's an opportunity for me to try and commit myself to something where I can kind of change my life and change my family's life. My sister's a single mum of 3, and my mum's.
So you didn't come from money, but you coveted money. Would that be fair to say? Money for the sake of money, or because it's a measure of a success?
So Chris Watkin put a post out yesterday, actually, about people who chase kind of accolades versus people who chase kind of like fulfillment.
Yeah.
And there's this thing called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I always find really interesting. And the first layer, the foundation of the pyramid is kind of like the physiological needs. Like, are you actually like fed and shelter and stuff? And then there's kind of like safety. So I guess it's all of it. I needed that, right? A lot of founders, and you've, like Russell, you've bridged these two worlds of property and technology. A lot of founders come from money because oftentimes you need to have that kind of safety net to say, fuck it.
And they might have 3 or 4 things going on at the same time as well. So they're hedging their bets, aren't they?
Yeah. So I think at that time, I probably did covet like a nice watch, and like I remember thinking to myself, like my dream would be to do every Formula One race how it is best done. Right. So like Spa-Francorchamps.
Someone's
from
done
a
that on
helicopter.
YouTube. I think it was like 80k to do it in a year or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, but do it all like
first class.
Unless you get cancellation.
yeah, exactly. So, but also there was like I wanted to be able to maybe buy my mum a house, and like, and I've not achieved any of these things yet, and now like the Formula One thing, that I'm not even bothered about that anymore.
Well, you've still got time. And so, did you look at your friends, your peers that were now graduating, and think, oh shit, they've just done the whole 3-year university thing? Data says, you're a data guy, they're probably going to do better than someone that hasn't been to uni, depending on what they do, which career choice they make. Did you at that point start to think, shit, actually, I've had a great time for 2 or 3 years with, Miss Sweden and, the boiler room thing and all that? I'm paraphrasing, obviously. Did you start to have any regrets?
No, because at that point, I knew I was in a situation to go and earn a lot more money than them. If I just got a job at what I'd achieved thus far, I knew I could go and earn a similar amount of money somewhere else. But sales and like, again, estate agents understand this, because estate agency in its simplest form, it's sales. It's
hunter-gathering.
Well, you need to earn your money every year.
It's hunter-gathering,
right?
Yeah.
And like when I was selling sports hospitality, if you don't have a sale, you don't earn any more money. Whereas the other route that my mates went down is they graduate, they start at a salary, and their salary will continue to go up over time.
Each year.
Yeah.
So
right.
when did you start?
But to a point.
To a point.
Yeah.
When did you start looking at estate agency and thinking, right, here's an opportunity? And was that the only sector you looked at?
So I think it was actually like a coincidence. So if you're going to start a business, you need, well, you don't need, but I needed co-founders, right? Like I'm not really much of a lone wolf. I like being part of a team. I played rugby for my whole life. Like that kind of thing is important to me. So I met my co-founder Peter, who's our tech guy, another guy who started the business with, Seb, and then there was a 4th founder in the very early days who left very early on. And it was kind of a coincidence that we all had some sort of connection to property. So Peter had run a small property portal running off a Zoopla feed back in the day, where Zoopla would do a pay-per-click agreement for those kind of things. Seb at the time was thinking of creating a like a lead generator for agents, because he was from a design background. And myself, although I'd never really been in property, my dad and my granddad were both small scale property developers, kind of the kind of knock one down and build two kind of thing. So we all had like an affinity to property, and it might have been quite loose affinity.
They were mates or friends of friends, or
we were just introduced by people who just. It was a coincidence.
It wasn't through an incubator. You weren't thrown together by some entity.
No. And like so now, just Peter and I left, and so we've been working together now for over 10 years. The idea that you can start a business with someone that you don't know, and not kill each other 10 years later, like we're very lucky, because we were from different worlds in terms of like. I was more kind of sales, sport, like he was more kind of techie. I don't want to call him a geek, just in case he watches this video.
No, but you needed each other's skill sets.
But what was his idea? What was his vision for a business, and your vision?
Well,
where did it start?
I guess kind of we looked around and we saw that kind of Rightmove, if you take the property market, if you're looking at kind of the demand side, you've got Rightmove and Zoopla, right? And at the moment on Agents Mutual was just kind of starting to knock about. And that was a big enough opportunity on that side of the business, on that side of the transaction, to have £2 billion companies, right? And the naivety of when you start a startup is you need to convince yourself and you need to convince investors that it's £1 billion opportunity, otherwise you don't get it. Obviously most of these don't. So we thought, well, if that's the opportunity on the demand side of things, there's no one actually doing anything on the supply side of things. No one's controlling I mean, controlling is probably the wrong word, but no one's helping vendors actually find the right estate agent to sell their property. We lived in London where the problem is the most pronounced, right? And I lived in kind of Wapping, Whitechapel area. The outcode, the postcode is E1.
Yeah.
It's 2.7 square miles. And within 6 months, and we knew this from the data that Peter had from his Zoopla Fed property portal, within the prior 6 months, 200 estate agents had listed property in that area.
In there, yeah, all feeding in. Wow.
Yeah. And so just like the way people were going about choosing an estate agent were just so ill-informed. Yeah, exactly. So ill-informed. And actually, sometimes if they'd have guessed, they probably would have had more a higher likelihood of getting the right answer than they did by some of the other things.
So they could have literally done the whole pin a tail in the donkey thing, and were just as likely to have a good outcome. But in fairness, there was no data available. No, as in a centralised kind of aggregation of data that would help that seller understand who to go with.
So if you think about it, so if I'm in London and I'm selling a home, and it's the first time I'm selling a home. How do I find an estate agent? So a lot of stuff is referrals, right? So I'll ask my mate Dave, who's just sold his place, who did you use, right? But Dave lives 2 miles away, which in London is a completely different area. Dave had a 2-bedroom terraced house, and I've got a 1-bedroom flat. Mm-hmm. And also, Dave's only ever sold one property. So what clue is Dave?
Time's moved on.
It's like TripAdvisor.
Since he listed and sold, maybe it was a year or 2 years ago, so the market's moved on.
But TripAdvisor and like food, for example, it's not as bad because like we all eat food every day, right?
There's
like,
a constant stream of people.
Well, we all eat food every day, so I have a good idea of if food is good or not. Probably I have too good an idea of if food is good or not. But you sell your home so rarely, so you never really build up a big enough data set to give a really good opinion on if someone's a good estate agent or not. You just say if you had a good experience with them. The other ways people would do it is they'd choose based on, like they'd Google estate agents in wherever, and they choose the agent that comes up. Well, we know that's the agent that pays the most Google, not necessarily the agent that's best at selling homes.
So why not just rely on reviews?
Well, for that reason, right? For that reason. So like my mate Dave that I just mentioned, Dave said X estate agent was really good, but
but it's not one size fits all.
But what does Dave know?
Based on experience of
right?
one.
And look, I'm a data-driven kind of person. Like I'm kind of like a numbers person. My co-founder is a Cambridge engineering graduate. It's fair to say that he's a numbers person. So for us, kind of, we thought, well, how would we go about choosing a good estate agent? And the reality was that some agents prove time after time that they're objectively better than others. And so if we can help drive undecided vendors to those agents, we're doing a great service to both the agents and the vendor. Because like the other numbers that back it up. So when we started in London, so the numbers are London centric early on. We looked at the market leader in each of the outcodes, like the E1, for example. What market share did the market leading agent in each outcode have? And it was like
on sold, completed,
on listed,
because
that was the data we had available at the time. It was 7%.
Wow.
And those agents would be thrilled to bits, right?
Like,
let's not. I don't want to underplay how amazing that is that an agent can achieve that in that competitive market. But if you think the leading agent had 7%, so the second agent had 5%, third agent 4%. 75% of listings are going with people outside of the top 6.
The other 197 that you had.
So I'm sure there's some good agents in that 196 or whatever, but there are some agents that shouldn't be selling property in that area as well. So we thought, like as a bare, like if we can help drive people towards these top 6, we're avoiding the biggest problems, which is when people choose an agent that's really wrong, it's priced incorrectly, the agent can't really explain.
So you present a better problem. So the biggest problem is they choose outside the 6. You then present a different problem, which is, okay, now we're going to tell you which of the 6 you should choose. But then, of course, you have to narrow that down to one of the 6, right? Yeah,
but there's two, as you guys know, there's 2 parts to the sale. There's getting in the front door, and then there's getting the listing, right? And from a vendor, it's the same, just the opposite way around. The first is deciding who I invite around to do evaluation, and then the second is who do I instruct. Now, we're as much as like Pete and I are data-driven people, we're humans, we understand that vendors are human. People are going to make decisions based on kind of instinctive
based
reasons.
on a connection sometimes.
The humans have evolved over thousands and thousands of years. So if I choose somebody because they had a firmer handshake and the other person had a limp handshake, ridiculous, but people will do that, right? Or someone wore a suit, someone didn't wear a suit, I could empathise more with the other person.
Or they supported the same football team as you were.
Or what's that got to do with their ability to sell a home? But it will happen either way. So what we thought is, if we can give you a real data-driven insight into which estate agents to invite round, choose from those three however you want, and you'll have the best of both worlds.
Because there could also be more than one right answer. So in other words, two of the six could be right. But you don't want to go multi because you're going to pay more. So, it might be okay to choose agent B and agent D. Because actually, when it comes to the data, the statistics, for you, in your circumstances, your postcode area, your price range, your type of property, they're both as good as each other. So you're narrowing down, but you're ultimately not dictating the agent, you're dictating the basket of agents.
Yeah, which it does a lot of the job. When we talk about kind of if I don't know, 85% of properties are sold with agents outside the top 6, in that example in London at that time, then if we get, like, what's that, 2 out of 17, so 15 out of 17 times is being made wrong. If we can push those to the top 2 or 3 agents, that's where we could have the biggest impact for both agent and vendor.
And I think I was possibly leaving the agency world when you were getting involved with the business. I was, we did a bit. But where has the tech evolved from where it started day one to where it is today? How have you evolved the proposition?
So the tech,
the number of agents you can choose, how many people. So if I'm conscious to how many agents can be.
We started showing the top 6 agents in a particular area, and we're still basically the same product, right? In terms of, we now show 7 rather than 6. Because we tested 6, 7 and 8, and for some strange reason 7 had a much better conversion rate in terms of valuations requested for agents, but still successful outcome on the sale of the property. But the main core product is actually still quite similar. Kind of, it looks a lot better. I think a lot of the stuff that people won't see about GetAgent is all the marketing stuff we do. And so we've invested more of our time and effort into kind of conversion rates around kind of the funnel metrics, our marketing efforts, like our nurturing of leads. We have a client services team of 35 people who try and maximise the number of vendors who are requesting valuations from our agents. So a lot of our
manually, so they're on the phone. Right. Okay.
So they're based in Old Street.
In the US they call internal sales agents, which is not something that UK agents tend to kind of know much about. So you're effectively converting the funnel in an old school way. Once you know that someone, is it only once you know someone is ready to list, or are you doing that all of the time, no matter what grade of lead?
So when someone comes through to the GetAgent website, we ask that they put in their postcode, number of bedrooms, approximate value, but then they also give us their name, number, email address, when they're looking to sell, etc. So they give us a lot of information to get to the point where they see the shortlist of 7 agents. So at that point, they've self-identified as a quite high intent person, and everyone who gets to that point of the process, I think over 50% of them go to market within kind of 6 months. Not always with GetAgent or through GetAgent referrals, but it's a high intent audience. So when you get to the shortlist of the top 7 agents, 20% of vendors click to request a valuation at that point, unprompted by us, and the others go through to our client service team. So they'll call about 18,000 vendors a month.
Nurture journey.
Yeah, but they'll call about 18,000 vendors a month and try and convert more of those into valuation requests. So I think last month we introduced 10,000 unique vendors to agents, with kind of 2.2 referrals on average per.
But the agent has to be signed up with you in the first place? Or are you just sending the leads to that top 7?
So you see the list of the top 7. It has the agent stats, so like how many properties they've listed, percentage of asking price achieved, average time to agree a sale. And then it also has the agent's fee, and then it has a button saying book free valuation. Now, of the 7 agents on the shortlist, we show an agent on the shortlist whether they work with us or not.
Okay. Right.
So of the 7 on the shortlist, 5 may work with us, 2 might not.
So I think that's really important, that you're being completely
transparent.
objective.
Yeah.
Saying, here's the 7, regardless of whether we're earning anything out of it.
Yeah. But you can only request a valuation from agents we work with.
Yeah, but they could go through the back door.
They could contact directly.
Yeah.
Luckily for us, there's less friction for them to request valuations from agents on the shortlist. So you can only request a valuation from an agent that works with us.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then you get paid from the fee as it's gone through.
Yeah. So we get paid on completion. So we charge 0.25% of the property value, but payable on completion only. So if you list the property and it doesn't sell, you don't pay us anything. Whereas like a lot of the stuff that other agents do
is pay per lead.
Which
I don't know about anybody else, but I am deeply suspicious of always. Because to me, if someone won't have, if they don't advance and persuade me on a proposition that's based on success, well, why would I be convinced to use it if even they don't have their own kind of confidence in its success based on that proposition?
Yeah, well, the answer is because cash flow cycles are a nightmare, right? And every agent understands this, is that because they have the same thing. But we spend £6 million a year on B2C marketing. Say we spend £500,000 in January to acquire leads. We're not getting paid any money until.
I was going to ask, as a businessman, how have you coped with the whole change in the length of transactions? Was it 21 days now for an average residential home to exchange, 26 weeks for a flat if you're lucky? That must have seriously affected yourselves as you're in growth mode and all these people employed. So as a businessman, an entrepreneur, which is what I think our audience really want to know, how have you dealt with that?
I guess same as agents, right? Like
obviously a little boost in the first quarter of this year, but
yeah, exactly. And there's peaks and troughs, and like one thing I've learned is don't take the credit for the peaks, because otherwise you have to take the criticism for the troughs, right? And so how have we dealt with it? It's tough because there are things that are out of your control, and look, one of the reasons why a lot of us run our own businesses is because we like to feel like we're in control. And every now and again the property market decides to remind you that you're not, right? And kind of we weren't in the property industry before, but I think we've now been in it over 10 years. Kind of, it probably doesn't feel like a long time to you guys, but I feel like we've been through it a little bit because we had Brexit, then we had COVID, where you didn't know if you were coming or going. You've
had uncertainty and challenges thrown at you. So it's tough. The problem, I think, one of the biggest problems is when you're paying to acquire those leads up front. Oftentimes you don't know that pipeline disruption is going to come. Right. And I guess so that's one of the biggest challenges for us, but I guess one of the biggest benefits for agents that we work with is that we're footing some of that cash flow risk. You're only being paid on success. So let me be objective. Let's say I'm a cynical agent, and there are lots of them out there, of course, and I'm sure you come across lots of them, that will say, well, look, don't really get the GetAgent thing, no pun intended. And actually, look, it doesn't matter because the seller that you say you're going to send to me through your website, bearing in mind you spent all that money on marketing, you're on TV. Obviously, you did a deal with Channel 4, right? Media Equity, which I've seen the adverts many, many times. Very amusing, I think, actually stick in the mind. But many sellers will say, but Colby, that guy's coming to me anyway. What's the data that disproves that?
Well, this is it, right? and kind of it's so I was speaking with one of the very few kind of big regional agents that we're not working with last week, and that was their objection that they raised, right? And so before the meeting, I'd looked at what the market share of each of their branches was in their primary location, and this is a good agent, like a really good agent, and it was 7.4%. So all other things being equal, there's a 1 in 14 chance that agent would have that vendor would have instructed you anyway. But all things aren't equal because of the people that 7.6% market share that agent has, a lot of referrals, right, where the vendor would never have ended up on the GetAgent website anyway. A lot of people you're already in contact with all the time, or it was a buy-to-let landlord and you were letting the property, now you're selling it. So when you look at kind of...
So they've had a tailwind.
Yeah, exactly. So when you actually look at just what is the chance that person that came to us would have come to you anyway, it's much, much smaller than even your market share. And the market share numbers start small.
So there's probably a 95% chance that seller would not have gone to them.
Yeah, and so our marketing. I mentioned we spend £6 million a year on marketing. What we don't try and compete with agents on marketing because we'll lose, right? Like we're making much less than the agent, so we will lose. So we do kind of large scale national PPC where we have an advantage. We do TV advertising because we have a unified national brand, so we have an advantage. And we have partnerships with the likes of Which, Money Saving Expert.
And your
Santander.
SEO is excellent.
Our SEO is pretty good. So we're fishing in the ponds that the agents are not really fishing in. If you ever see us sponsoring a local rugby team, it's me desperately trying to
get tickets for internationals.
to elongate my rugby career and get in the team.
But I guess where you also win is that a lot of the dollars, if you like, that are spent in the property industry here are spent trying to attract the buyer, whether that's Rightmove, Zoopla on the market or agents naively. You're specifically looking to get the seller. So it's not quite as challenging, I suppose, as competing with the agent because most of them are looking at the other side of the fence.
In terms of competing with the agent, it's not as challenging. Yeah.
But
It's definitely
competing,
challenging.
it's a challenge for you when you're being paid on a success fee, and agents now, I understand, are just competing so intensely on fees. So your size of the pot is just going down and down and down and down and down as agents are charging less and less and less. It seems.
Well, we actually charge 0.25% fixed.
Right.
So regardless of whether the agent charges 1% or 3%. Our fee is 0.25%. So it's
sorry, no, I understood that, but they're all competing now on fees, whereas 1.5%, 1.25 used to be the norm. It's now 1%. I think in Cambridge, I was told the norm is now about 0.8%. Fees are just under a lot of pressure, and so your percentage of that is the same, but the monetary amount is getting less.
But hang on, let's delve into that though, because what's also important is that the agent understands that there's technically no cost of acquisition because they're not paying per lead; they're only paying on success.
Yes.
So yes, you could say, okay, if you're charging 1.25%, you're now only getting a net 1%, so that 0.25% is your cost of acquisition. But what's the age-old thing? We didn't cover this with Simon Ledbetter actually in the last video. The age-old thing about marketing in the UK. In estate agency and all sectors is that you don't know which part of your marketing spend is being successful.
Yes.
With the GetAgent concept, you do know.
No, I get that.
Because you're only paying on success.
I'm looking from a business point of view in forecasting, thinking, so the average fee for this year is going to be this, the average house price, we get this many numbers coming through, tick. Then suddenly there's a fee war goes on, house prices start crashing. You've got to continually adjust your cash flow and forecasting whilst you're still spending $6 million a year on marketing.
And I just want to be sorry. I just want to be really, really clear because I don't want the audience to kind of misunderstand something. So, with our fee being 0.25% of the property value, so if it's a £200,000 property,
right.
It's £500.
Sorry, I thought it was the fee value.
No, exactly. Okay. Sorry, and I just want to be clear because you're not the first person to have been confused by that. So I just want to be really clear. So where it does impact us, though, is agents will come to us and say we're in a fee war. We can't afford to pay the GetAgent fee. Right, but unfortunately, that's not how costs work. Right, their rent's going up. And this is why agents can't afford to get sucked into fee wars. Right, and that's why the very heart of GetAgent is this. We're fighting them back against the perceived kind of homogeny of agents, and that it's a commoditized product. It's not. Some agents are not very good. Some agents are really, really good. And if you're really, really good, we want to help you charge a fee that
we've got to wrap up with a couple of final questions. So first of all, question about your proposition. Do you see in the data that those agents that are better demonstrably by way of stats charge more? I mean, they should. Obviously, the answer is, well, yeah, if they're selling quicker and for a greater percentage of the asking price, they should be charging more. My question is deliberately designed to provoke the audience here that if they are one of those top 7, let's say they're number 1 of 7, surely they should be charging 1.5%, not 1%. Do you find in reality that happens?
Generally speaking, yes, but when you're generalising across so many agents, there are tons of agents who are really, really good who don't charge
what they should.
So generically, it's true then that if you're better, you can charge more. That's my kind of take on that stat. I'm not saying that's what goes through their mind, but actually the data shows that if you're a good agent, you will charge more. So in other words, be better, charge more.
Know your data, be confident, walk in.
But my message is be better, charge more, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Lead with how good you are, rather than your price, because otherwise you'll always end up losing out.
But then you don't have to have the debate about, we can't afford to pay GetAgent because. Well, no, hang on a sec. You're starting from a better position anyway because you're good. So that was that. And secondly, let's go back to a couple of things that we mentioned earlier on. I'm just mindful of time. Obviously, just had the baby. You mentioned, I think, having the baby and risk mindset in the same sentence. Do you already feel that now having kind of an extra member of the family has changed your risk appetite? Too early to tell?
I think so. I think what changes the risk appetite more than anything is having something to lose.
Yeah.
Right. And so with GetAgent, for example, when we started, it's kind of like, if this doesn't work out, we tried. It was a good opportunity.
Yeah.
Whereas now, kind of, we've had investors. There is a business there.
And responsibilities.
We have staff. Yeah. So that kind of changes your attitude to risk a little bit in a way that sometimes I don't know if that's good or bad.
But what I'm getting at is, does family change that?
But family, yeah, I think so. Because it also, what it changes as well is what you're doing it for, right? And what you're doing it for. So does it change attitude to risk? You probably, because I don't come from money, if I can just get to a point where everyone's kind of safe and looked after, then that's kind of enough for me.
I think you end up with more, forget risk for a second, I think you end up with even more motivation to succeed because you now have a family. And I think that's the mindset change between being a young kind of,
gung-ho, let's go.
Entrepreneur and now thinking, okay, risk is definitely a thing and I understand risk profile in terms of if I don't risk anything, I probably don't get reward.
Yeah.
But now I think you start to feel, I definitely did when I had kids. Okay, I've got much more now, to provide for, but I also now, I've got to set an example to these kids.
Yeah, and I'd agree with you, I definitely agree with you that more motivation to succeed, right? But then it's more motivation to succeed, but then does what success looks like change?
Yeah.
Right. So that's definitely more motivation to succeed. Does what success looks like change? Because actually, just being present. Right, you mentioned before
family
this about the next couple of years you want to spend a lot of time with your kids because they
then
probably won't want to go on holiday with you after that.
Who would?
Yeah, exactly.
Trust me, they don't go. You think they're going to go, they don't.
That's why until they're 19, 20, 21, you have 30. To make the best use of that time. Right?
But it is finding then the balance between I have a responsibility to the business, I have responsibility as a dad, and not wanting to let people down, right? Because
new hats.
And especially when you have investors and people who take a punt on. I was 26 when we started GetAgent. Those people that decided to invest money effectively in me and my co-founder, that's a really big responsibility, and I don't take it lightly. And the same
huge endorsement of your belief for where you're going as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where are you going? What's next?
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the goal?
We've recently released our second product. So during the course of kind of building GetAgent over the last 11 years, kind of our agent distribution network, agents who are willing to pay us on success for leads, we work with 8,000 agents all over the country, which to my mind is the biggest distribution network of estate agents the industry's ever seen. And we want to try and use that to allow agents to benefit from that as well. So we've released a product called GetAgent Exchange, which allows agents to refer out-of-area vendors or applicants to us. And people told me not to do this because it's a really difficult. Lots of companies have tried to do this and have had some success, but to a limited amount. And what we've decided to do differently is to automate the entire process. So it's not going to be the agent's main priority to do. So what happens, for example, in our integration with Repit, the lead comes through, the agent registers the applicant as usual. Repit recognizes it's an out-of-area selling opportunity, gets automatically shared with our client services team, who calls the vendor or the applicant, hopefully a vendor, on behalf of the agent and says...
Because you've already got that infrastructure in place.
Yeah.
And what's it called? The product?
GetAgent Exchange. Yeah. So for example, we work with, Hatton Home, brilliant estate agent in Berkshire. The lead comes through to us. Our client services team will call. They'll say, calling from the relocation team at Hatton Home. You mentioned you had a property sale. We don't cover that area. We work with a company called GetAgent. Can we help you find the best estate agent? So Hatton Home, like Ben and Luke, they don't have to do anything. They just turn on the integration.
And what are they getting
we
out
do
of
it, and we pay them 50% rev share.
50%
50% rev share.
Wow.
So we do all of the
based
work.
on your 0.25.
Yeah. And we do all of the work. So we're really excited about that. Like, one of the challenges at the moment is differentiating it from GetAgent. So we've called it GetAgent Exchange because it's important that
keep the brand.
It's part of GetAgent because that's where the distribution network comes from. But we need to make sure agents are aware that we have this new product, which we're working hard on now.
Yeah. Well, those listening and watching this will now be aware. So, and how do people get in touch with you? Quite straightforward on LinkedIn?
Yeah. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. My email address is colby@getagent.co.uk. Please, no recruiters email me after that.
Well, no, because you've just signed up with me. Not
But yeah, we're always willing to help. And one of the things that we've learned over the years is that in the early times, we didn't really engage with the market enough. We were very much focused on the vendor acquisition stuff. Yeah. And that's something which has changed a lot over the last couple of years. We have an agent success team whose sole job that is. So please, any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And if I can't help, I can introduce you to them.
And I think on that note, there is definitely, I think, within the estate agency community, a kind of misunderstanding about GetAgent, I think. I see it occasionally. So, I think on the basis of, the money you're spending on marketing, the concept, the data, and also the way you charge, I think it's an utter no-brainer, frankly. And I think, anyone that's, sceptical, cynical, whatever, reach out, right?
Yeah, be happy to chat.
Good.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Another great episode. Thank you, Colby, for coming on. The sleepless nights as well, 5 weeks on. So really appreciate you coming into London today.
Yeah, you're not grey yet, but you will very soon be like us.
Well,
Didn't you have any more?
Yeah, grandchildren now for me. So so that's it. Episode 32 in the can. We're on to episode 33 with an entrepreneur, another entrepreneur driving his independent estate agency business forward and wearing two hats, employed, self-employed. So that's going to be very interesting. I don't know if he's a client, but I imagine he probably is. So that's it. It's all for me to say. It's good night from me.
And it's good night from him. See you next time.